Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk. Where again, John, Dave, and myself are going to look back over Ireland's fantastic victory against England at the weekend. Also, Leinster's pretty poor performance against the Ospreys, and look forward to our game against the Scarlets. So, boys, we'll start off with the good news first. I suppose Ireland, great win at the Aviva 19-9. Just a magnificent performance.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know what I was expecting, really. I was just very nervous before it. I just thought I could kind of feel the build up in the stadium. I could, even during the anthems, I could feel something special was happening. But I wasn't expecting us to be quite so dominant, and for England not to get a look in. Like, you'd hardly say we blew them away or anything, because even with 60 minutes gone, I wasn't. When we were 19-3 up, I was going, there's some chance that they might come back at it.
I didn't think so. I thought there was no way. There was just two. There was only one team on the pitch.
I don't think we blew them away, but it was comprehensive.
That's that's exactly what it was.
Our intensity levels was mild, but our if you look at all of the players on their team, they came in and Saracens and all the names from them, and they're particularly say Saracens' display against Munster in the European Cup. Not one of those players performed. We're playing Bath in a couple of weeks' time, and all their backs, brutal. Like, they never got a chance. I don't know. But they never got a chance. They never got a chance.
They were managed by
Ireland.
Even
their kickoffs. Their kickoffs put them under pressure instead of putting us under pressure. They kicked the ball 5 metres. Every time they got the ball, they kicked it 5 metres too long. It meant that every one of our exits from our defence was under no pressure. Mm-hmm. Every one of our kicks, on the other hand, put them under pressure. They were getting the ball, man and ball, and they were being knocked back in the tackle. I mean, can you think of one tackle that they put in that was an offensive tackle that knocked our guys?
No, I mean, it was the rucks more than anything else.
That's all, and that's all true, and it's 100% true for the first hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to a certain extent, like the French game, we kind of fell off it for 20 minutes.
We didn't score. We didn't score for the last 30 minutes.
And if they'd got a try with 10 minutes to go,
it was all
bets were off at that stage.
And they nearly did. Yeah,
because we kind of sunk back into defensive mode at that stage, which is something that kind of we do sometimes, and it's not that
we did under Smith with Leinster as well. For many times we just seemed to play brilliantly and then just relax.
Now for the first hour, I mean, everything you say is true, and Ireland were completely dominant. But over the course of the match, Ireland were the better team. They won comprehensively. They deserved to win comprehensively. Mm-hmm. But there's still a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, we missed 28 tackles.
Yeah,
that's shocking.
It is, yeah.
That's really, really poor.
But do you remember there was one? Well, there was a few incidents during the game. Like, the one that sticks out in my mind was, I think about 10 minutes to go, they had a drive on our line. We held them up. There was a scrum then 5 metres out, and we massacred them in that scrum.
Well, that was one of the really telling things about the match, was the one area of where before the game people were kind of uniform in thinking that England would have an edge, was the scrum.
Yeah.
And it was completely the opposite. We dominated them in the scrum.
But Dave, not just an edge, that they would murder us, that they'd have Vinipola bursting off the back, that they'd have Dan Cole and what's the other prop? Sorry, Marler, who had done a job on Ross.
Yeah, well, I truly expected England to be dominant, to dominate the scrum. Maybe not massacre us, but certainly to dominate us, and that was one of the reasons why I said that maybe picking Murphy would have been a good idea. Was a good idea because of his ability at the back of the scrum. He's a natural number 8. As it happens, it was the other way. What we used Murphy was his pace and his ball playing off the back of a dominant scrum.
Yeah, well, we actually used him to scrummage. Yeah. He wasn't an ornament at the back of the scrum, which sometimes
sometimes coaches forget about that sometimes you should scrummage with all 8.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you have to against a team like that, but where was their back row? Where were their flankers in particular? Yeah. I mean, Vunipola was fairly visible. I mean, okay,
he made a couple of good runs, but
he had a couple of runs at least. The other lads,
at least Vunipola tried. I mean, I think I don't know who it was. It might have been Jerry Thornley said Haskell looks brilliant with his shirt off. It's when he has it on the pitch that he looks rubbish.
Yeah, well, I can't use my Doctor Who one 3 times, but he did have a few relatives in that pack. James Who and the other lads whose name I can't even remember. I'll leave Chris Robshaw as the other flanker.
I thought
there's a guy who's the leader of the team, who's normally up there.
He looked witless, so he did. He really did.
Even when he gave away that penalty, needless. The ball was 40 metres out from, and he just came around
Frustration.
offside.
Yeah.
But do you remember then there was one a series of lineouts on our, again, great defence was in the first half. Series of lineouts on our, where I think Toner robbed one, and then we cleared it, and then we had a lineout, or they had a lineout again on the 22 or something.
Yeah, we robbed that, and that's actually where. No, it was the first lineout where Sean O'Brien got injured, wasn't it? It was the first or second. It was one of those.
It was a penalty to them that they didn't kick. They went for the corner, and Toner stole it. Yeah.
Toner had a very good day out of touch.
Great day, yeah.
But I mean, our entire pack played really, really well. One guy who perhaps because in the past his lineout has been a bit shonky, but I think has been kind of a, if you like, an unsung kind of stalwart of the Irish pack has been Rory Best. And I thought he had probably his best game for Ireland. I thought he was magnificent. Game,
But again, like his work on the ground and his turnovers, like
that's part of his gig, though. He's famous for it.
Yeah.
But it was the one game where he tied every part of his game that he does really, really well together at one time. And for the first time, you could see. We're maybe not like, I mean, we're used to watching him, we know how good a player is, but people who mightn't be used to watching him can see, that's why you pick Rory Best.
The one thing that gave me hope before the game was when I saw Easter and Croft on their bench. I was thinking, Easter is a great player and all that, but he's not really a second row, and he was covering the second row.
It's funny because Sir Clive Woodward thought that their bench, would have edged it.
Well, he knows more than I do. In fairness, he's coached Lions tours and won World Cups and shit. So, but however,
he was wrong about that. Croft is an interesting player.
Croft is a funny one. He's played more in the second row than Easter for his club.
Yeah.
And there he is covering the back row, which just those two selections I thought were strange.
Actually, I remember when funny enough, Matt O'Connor was in charge of Leicester at the time. Leicester took Toulon apart down in Toulon, first half of a match, because they had Croft in the second row, but they didn't use him as a second row. They used him as an extra flanker, midfield back, and they ran Toulon all over the pitch. But Croft did his hamstring at just before half time,
and they lost.
They were dominating, and they didn't have that tactical advantage. Croft is funny because he's one of the most unorthodox players in terms of.
Oh, he's very quick, and he's got great hands. And
he's back fast.
He's not and he's not an enforcer. He's where Easter probably is more of an enforcer, but he's not really a second row, and he's got no pace at all. So just the combination of the two of them. And they're really missing Launchbury and Laws. Like those two guys might have been a different outcome, and Parling. But you would say that they are their two first choice locks.
Oh yeah. But you see, I mean,
and both of them are out.
When you've got guys, guys like Cruz and that, and they're not bad players. They're very good players, but they're not particularly mobile. Okay, Paul O'Connell wouldn't be the quickest over the deck. But Toner covers a lot of ground with his pace, with his stride. Then you bring on Ian Henderson, who's genuinely quick as well.
Yeah.
We moved English pack all over the place, and they weren't overly fond of it. I mean, I was very disappointed actually because he was a guy who I had no respect for, and then I thought he worked himself back. Is Haskell? I thought he was all about the hype, and the brand.
He was at one stage.
The brand was more important than the rugby, and I thought he worked himself back into a position where people were taking him seriously. But in the last 6 months, since people started taking him seriously again,
he was great against Wales.
Yeah, but he started mouthing out of him again. And he seems to believe his own hype too readily. That's the problem.
He wasn't bad against us for Wasps either.
No, he wasn't. No, but the great players aren't too bad against us and then do nothing for the next two games. They do it all the time.
Okay.
Well, once again, you just see the way sort of the cogs can just fit straight into the machine. O'Brien goes off after 25 minutes, and Tommy O'Donnell, who must have been gutted because he had a great game over in Rome, and then was dropped from the entire 23, came back in for O'Brien, and he looked like he was a superstar.
If you'd have told me that the back row that against Haskell, Robshaw and Vunipola, we would not have O'Brien and Heaslip, I would have gone game over. And Jordy Murphy and Tommy O'Donnell were phenomenal. And it just reinforces your point about, we've said it loads of times before about the machine. And you slot out one part, you slot in another.
It's
May not be quite the same fit. You might have to turn the thing slightly to the left, but
it's all about the process.
Works exactly the same.
You get the process right. You get the result. I had no fear with O'Donnell coming on, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
But like himself and Geordie Murphy, while they're fabulous players, I just would have been a little bit fearful having both of them in the same back row, being a little bit lightweight. Not a bit of it. Not a bit of it.
One player who you take him out of the team, and then there's a big gulf between him and the next guy down, Sexton. Like Sexton was brilliant for 60 minutes.
There's a huge gulf between him and whoever the next guy is.
But you could just see the difference. Like when Madigan did okay, but he's no Johnny Sexton.
Johnny Sexton's the best out half in the world.
Yeah.
And I include Mr. D. Carter of New Zealand in that. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, and if you lose a player that good...
It's not that we're biased, it's just that we see more of them.
Yeah. But you see him, and then you pair him with a player like Conor Murray, who's just playing the best rugby of his life and playing wonderful rugby. Absolutely.
And the two of them can put a ball on a sixpence from anywhere on the field.
That's an out half. That's a half back pairing for the ages. I thought they were superb.
There's a good interview tonight on News Talk with Murray, and he was talking about the try, and they were given the penalty, and he's, under no circumstances, is like O'Driscoll said this as well. Under no circumstances are we to take a drop goal or play for the kick. Always go for the 5 points.
Yeah.
And Henshaw said that he was trying to catch Murray's eye without giving the game away. That because they'd practiced this move, that if there was a break or an opportunity to give a little dink over the top, and Murray copped on and he did it as well. But just to have this understanding, and it's only his third game with Henshaw.
Well, when you see the try, you can see Murray signalling to Henshaw that the ball is going over the top.
Yeah.
Is that a cue for a try?
That might be a cue for a try. I think.
Have a look at it.
I'll never get tired of this one, and I'm pretty sure Robbie Henshaw will never get tired of this one. First try for Ireland.
You start a fair bit, but there's so much good stuff in the try. I mean, a lot of good stuff. How
many times did the ball come down and they made the knock on?
Yeah.
How many times were they caught making being offside from a kick? I think it must have been about 3 times.
We'll come back to Simon Zero's performance later because I think it deserves
a
discussion of its own. He was superb, but that just shows. I mean, look at them swarming over that ball.
That's the kind of stuff you see out of New Zealand.
Yeah.
That kind of rucking.
Yeah.
Even 5-10 years ago, New Zealand could do that. Now we can do it. And not against fucking Georgia here. We're against some fairly serious rugby players. And of course they have to give away a penalty as well to keep us out. Actually, one thing I was very impressed with them was there was 2 times in the first half that I thought we were definitely in for a try, and they held us out on the line.
I mean, in
both
fairness,
times.
It's a good England team.
That was awesome by them. I don't know how they kept us out. Ooh.
No panic, just a reset.
I felt that from here.
Now, if you look here, you can see. Look, it's on.
Up and over. Beautiful. And when I saw it, I was up in the corner just behind that, and I thought his body had hit the touchline, and I went, "Yeah, we're not going to get this." And when I saw the replay, I went, "Yeah, that's game."
Did you use your Darkhan voice?
Only in my mind, Dave. I was surrounded by English people.
Now it was just good play all around. I mean, we saw there a series of rucks, really good clearances. Even the one that looked, because I thought O'Mahony had got himself a little bit isolated, but the speed the players got to it to clear it out. You see there, it's a great jump and catch.
And he got the ball down before he got near the line.
You'll remember that one for the rest of his life.
We'll be looking at this try in 20 years' time going, that guy, remember when he scored that try, his first try back in 2000 and whatever it is. We won't remember what year it was.
We'll be saying like, we used to have Dricko, and we were thinking, we're snookered now, we've no one. And
who thought he'd go on to win 3 Heineken Cups with Leinster?
Well, whatever. Who thought he'd go on to win the World Cup when he was 28 or whatever? Whenever we're going to win the World Cup
this year.
But something that we've been criticised for is being too robotic or being too, like, we've just gone on about how great it is, the machine, the way it works, and we can swap players in and out. People are saying, some people who are never happy and who don't enjoy a good game of rugby, good tough game of rugby, are saying that, why can't we flash the ball around and cure cancer and do all that stuff?
Because we want to win.
At the same time, well, that's the obvious answer, Dave.
In fairness, I don't know what other answer you could give.
But what I think is that we have been loosening up a little bit. Even in that game, there was a lot more little wrap rounds and little handling bits.
There was a great move after about 10 minutes that we ended up getting a penalty for, but we were held up just on the line. But there was a great series of moves that we tried. We did dummy runs and decoy runs, and we had. I think I can't remember who was coming back into the back. Might have been Henshaw, I think, but he made serious yardage in there.
You see, you do that against France. You don't do that. Against France, you play multi-phase rugby because France can't play multi-phase rugby. Against England, you have to be a bit more creative because England can play multi-phase rugby. Against Wales, it'll have to be a different game plan again because A, they're good in the air, and B, they can play multi-phase rugby. So maybe against England, we see a very expansive game plan against Wales because they're not fit. There's all sorts of different kind of permutations and connotations, combinations that you can put together to come up with the right game plan for a game. I mean, against England, what Ireland did is what Joe Schmidt always does. He attacked them where they thought they were strongest, and once that was taken away from them, they collapsed.
What people have been saying is that the reason, maybe we're keeping something under wraps, and well, if we're keeping anything under wraps, we're going to be shown it in that game. I think what it is that we haven't got a developed centre partnership. We're not in a position where we can start throwing things around and flashing. This develops, as this centre partnership develops, you're going to see progressively more flashing the ball around, progressively more offloading, progressively more of all the fancy stuff we want to see. Whether that's in the World Cup or maybe we'll have to wait till after the World Cup.
I think there is an element where you don't want to be a hostage to video analysis for the World Cup. Now, whether that means whether that means you sacrifice the Six Nations or the Grand Slam, I don't think you do. But I think that there will be.
We haven't, so
there will be an element where there's stuff. Where there's stuff that's in the playbook that's not going to be brought out unless it's absolutely needed. And so far, we haven't got to that position. Maybe against Wales, we will.
Well, that's an interesting point because we haven't had to chase a game. At any stage under Schmidt, we've been ahead.
Yeah, but remember going back to the Australia match in November. We built up a huge lead and they nearly came back at us. Similarly to the France game, again we built a lead and we seemed to just go asleep for those last 15-20 minutes. Similar enough, I thought England, but we had enough nous to be able to hold them out. And we trusted our defensive system, which was. It was being put under a severe amount of pressure in the last 10 minutes, but we still held them out, only conceding one score in that half an hour since we scored our try.
I think maybe if we had seen a situation where we were behind against England with 20 minutes to go, we might have seen a bit more gay abandon.
There was no need to abandon gayness.
But I think that was our 10th consecutive win. But if I just checked earlier on today, and I looked at the sequence of wins that we had back in 02 and 03.
But
they were against
Georgia,
minnows,
Russia,
Georgia, Romania,
Fiji.
Russia.
Wasn't that because of whatever happened in
1999?
We had to qualify for the World Cup, so we did have to. The guys had to go off to Krasnoyarsk and stuff like that to play qualifiers.
And then there was some of them. I think we went on a tour to
Canada and the US.
Yes, there was the minnows, and then you had Scotland and Wales in build-up matches prior to the World Cup in 03. Whereas these are heavy hitters that we're playing against. Beaten France twice,
France
England,
home and away.
Yeah, South Africa, Australia,
Argentina
away
twice. Although they were resting a lot of players.
No, that's granted, but it was
still a tier 1 nation. These are all, with the exception of Georgia, they're all against tier 1 nations.
Exactly.
We've beaten everyone bar the All Blacks now in the top 10 under Joe Schmidt. The other sequence that you may not have looked at is our longest unbeaten sequence. This is our longest winning sequence, but the Grand Slam year we had 12 in a row, and there was a draw in the middle there. Well, a draw near the end was Australia in Croke Park, and other than that, we had a 12 game unbeaten run. So you never know, we might.
But there
We
was
might
a
give
tour
that
to
a
the
rattle.
States and Canada as well that season.
There was, I think, yeah. So, you know, we haven't had a quality run like the one we have at the moment, and if we can carry it on for 2 more,
Yeah.
we'll be in a historic.
Hmm.
If we can carry it on for 1 more, we'll get the second one. I can't see us slipping up against Scotland. I mean, with that much on the line.
Many Irish teams have said that.
Yeah, I know, but
That's one of those foot in mouth kind of things.
well, it's also going to be a wooden spoon for Vern Cotter if because they're not going to win in Twickenham against an English team that's going to be smarting.
I don't think that we'll whatever happens against Wales, and we leave that to one side. I don't think Scotland are going to trouble us too much.
Other
But
than
the one thing I
get
would
caught
worry,
under our wheels.
the one thing I would worry about is that Joe Schmidt always pays an awful lot of respect to Vern Cotter's teams. Maybe sometimes too much.
Don't know. I just they must feel very like Scotland, like they had a narrow loss to Italy, but Italy did score 3 tries against just one. Italy's kicker, probably their 2 kickers, probably the worst kickers
They're
ever to
terrible,
get a cap at international level.
Frano Italiano had a good game.
What is it about number 8 that you don't like? There's loads of them. There's a list. I'm beginning to discover there's quite a list of number 8s that you. CJ Stander, what's his name? Frano Italiano. There's just. I think a number 8 stole your bird when you were in school or something. Or something like that happened to you.
That never happened because I never had a bird when I was in school.
It was the boys, wasn't it, Dave?
Not in Christian Brothers. They weren't. They were all ugly.
Yeah,
The Christian Brothers didn't share us around.
yeah, but you don't know what sort of Scotland could just come out and be manic in that game, and then especially it's the last one of the.
Well, they'll have nothing to lose, all right.
That
Weekends.
coming out and being manic, it doesn't work in the professional era. It used to work. Professional era, there's too many ways that a good team, a good professional team can stifle.
Yeah, if you remember back
like
when
the All Blacks
do you
used
remember
to.
the Grand Slam match there, whatever it was, 6 years ago? Like, I was over that match. That match could easily have
gone the other way.
Against which game are we talking about?
Well,
Scotland.
no, Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
could
we
be-
rested a lot of guys for that game, if you recall.
But I mean, we rested a guy, and then Heaslip came into the team.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like we rested Leamy, and Heaslip came
Yeah.
into the team. But we scored a try on it, but there was a pass made that they could have intercepted, and no one would have got Hogg. I think it was. I can't remember who it was, but they would have scored. But
Was Hogness still in school?
I don't know who it was. But like Scotland were by far the weaker team of that match, but they could have beaten us that day.
Yeah,
And
they do that a lot, all right.
like I can remember going over for that
The following
foot-
year as well in
I remember
Croker.
going over for that foot and mouth match,
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. about
and
it.
I
Yeah.
mean, like
You could not put money on Scotland winning that game. So you couldn't. You couldn't bet on Scotland to win
Yeah,
that
but that
game.
was back close to when they were actually winning 5 Nations.
Yeah, but it was a particularly terrible Scottish team. It was in the aftermath of the Kilted Kiwi scandal,
yeah.
the whole lot. I mean, they were at a very low point, but they beat us, and they kind of ruined it for us.
yeah, but like they must be just kicking themselves because they should have won that game, and then they just like they had an opportunity to clear their lines, game over, make their touch, they missed it. Italy, in fairness to them, ran the ball back, and then sequence of plays they got that penalty try.
The thing I was
How
most
happy
impressed
were
with
they?
that was Italy restarted them all in loose play, which is very, very hard to do. Very hard to do and very
Yeah.
hard to do legally, and they did it.
Yeah.
So just for doing that alone, they deserve to try, let alone the actual strength of them all.
I think it's their second away win in the 6 Nations
Yeah,
ever.
and I think that last one was against Scotland
Against
as well.
Scotland too,
and
yeah.
I think it's half of the matches that they've won. I think they've won 11 matches, and of those 6, I think have been against Scotland.
Well, we know that it's still only England that they have
Haven't
left.
beaten, yeah. Yeah, well, France have to go to Italy in next, actually, isn't it?
God knows what state France will
You
be in.
never know what'll happen.
Reports from France are that there have been late night meetings between captains and chairmen and directors of rugby in the French team hotel, etc., etc. So Philippe Saint-André is not long for this earth.
No, San
Can they
Andre.
get rid of him before the World Cup?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, quite easily.
He criticised the team
That's right, yeah.
during the week.
I heard that.
Dusseldorf had a late night meeting with Blanco, which was captured by a photographer from Video Olympique. So the French were as good at that as they are at everything else. So
Well, that was Wales' 4th consecutive win against France.
Yeah.
So, it's not like they haven't been there and done that.
Yeah, but France have been shite for 4 years.
They have.
Yeah.
In fairness.
In fact, I think they've finished. They haven't finished above fourth
They
in the
haven't
Six
beaten us.
Nations
Yeah,
in 4
Two
the
years.
draws
worst,
and
time,
two
the worst
losses.
time to play France is the last game, because by then they'll have run out of players and they'll actually pick the right team. I mean, it's as simple as that. Anytime before that, you're best getting France early.
It's a pity we have them last game in the World Cup, so
Yeah, yeah.
they'll
But,
have time to build into us.
Would you want them to keep San Andre there
Absolutely.
until the World Cup,
Yeah, either that or
and then have their mutiny?
have the mutiny just the week before the World Cup, and
It's
be in
thought that they
total
might get rid of
disarray.
they might get rid of Philippe Saint-André and put Rafael Ibanez in there on a job share, from his current job.
Wow, that's going to be tough.
Yep, but they have no choice. I mean, there's very few coaches available. There's very few French coaches.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Ones that are available for a reason.
Yeah.
For example, Galtier. Galtier's been there, done that. You know,
Lost the T-shirt.
lost the T-shirt. So they are in trouble. Guy Noves was up for the job wanted it as well, apparently, when Livermont got it. But his circumstances obviously have changed since then. He's not interested in that anymore. So, the French rugby's in chaos. It's absolute chaos. This could be the last World Cup that France go into as a Tier 1 nation.
Here.
I would go that far as to say that. France have a great league, but it's not a French league. It's a league that's played in France. The best players in it are overseas players. There's no rugby in schools in France. None. There's no sports in schools in France. So if you want to play rugby in France, you have to go to either a club, an after-school club, and then if you like sixth form college, you can go to a rugby school, or if you're a soccer player, soccer school or whatever. But there's no sports in France. French players are not coming through. That's why the French clubs are setting up their academies in the
Fiji.
South Sea Islands and stuff, because there's no French talent. There's talk that the French are going to, the 5 players are going to be announced as, if you like, project players for next season, and one of those is Irish. They're called Dennis Coulson.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, this is the hope for French rugby is a bunch of foreign guys. Now I have no problem with foreign players playing as part of. I have no problems with Richard Strauss, no part of Ger Payne. They've contributed to Irish rugby. They're part of Irish rugby. I'm just worried about this French scheme because it's more mercenary than sits comfortably, I think.
Well,
but French rugby's in an awful lot of trouble.
you'd think though that they've got 2 divisions full of professional teams, and even if half of them are foreign players, they've still got an awful lot of players. Surely,
the other side of
God,
that,
they must have more.
The other side of that is there is currently 6 full-time professional divisions in English soccer. Look at their national team.
Fair enough.
I mean, but that's the point. That's what French rugby has become. The top 14 has become the Premier League, the English Premier League of rugby. It's great. It's brilliant to watch. All the stars are there, but none of them are French.
Well, I don't know about none of them, but yeah. Anyway,
Very
you
few.
go around in a circle on that one.
Well, like they used to have great academies in Toulouse. Like I can remember even seeing Rugby World, I think, or whatever the IRB TV program is.
They still do.
But they showed this documentary on the kids. Like they've got live-in dormitories, and they've got 100 or so kids per every year going through it. Like they just have a wealth of talent coming. It was maybe about 4 years ago I saw that show. And
again, I know this sounds terribly UKIP, but the signs in the dormitory are in Georgian, Fijian, and English. Because that's who's filling the academies. There isn't enough. By the time we were talking earlier about Clongowes against Belvedere. There isn't a French schoolboy player as professional as any of the players on either of those 2 teams or the 2 teams who play tomorrow, because they just don't have that. They don't have the development path that Ireland, England, Wales, not so much Scotland, because Scotland has its own issues around school sports and pitches, etc., etc., etc. Historical ones, but they don't have that in France. They just don't have it. They're in an awful lot of trouble. They're in an awful lot of trouble. And I said it kind of, and it was a bit of a throwaway that this could be the last World Cup that France go into as a Tier 1 nation. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it wouldn't be exaggeration to say that it could be the second last World Cup France go into as a Tier 1 nation.
Well, surely they'll stop the rot eventually.
Well, one would hope so.
Well, the team that is having a bit of a rot at the moment is Leinster.
Who?
Like, I'm not sure if we gained 2 points or threw away 2 points at the weekend with our
And
9-0
watching the
draw.
match,
Both.
I'm not sure either. Still,
Both.
Yeah.
On paper, a game in the Ospreys, getting 2 points. You know, we haven't won there since 2009 in the league anyway. So you know that's definitely a gain of 2 points. However, watching the match, we should have been out of sight. You know, we were a better team. We had more possession. We had more
Look at the
territory.
quality of our team.
But-
And once again, you know, I think I've said it for the last 3 or 4 weeks or episodes. If you look at our team, we had
No,
I
we
think
have the quality there
we had
on paper
9
again.
Irish internationals
Yeah.
no,
playing.
yeah, there's no.
We had an Australian international and a Springbok international and an NRL player, and it looks like they've met in the car park of their local boozer, and
And had a few
A
pints.
few
before
beers
they
on
were
the
there.
way to the game.
like
No, it was poor fare.
Well, it was boring to watch, but I don't know. It's hard to discern what they're at or what they're trying to achieve or where they're. It's as if Matt O'Connor has removed the game plan and wants to see them do it on their own or something. Wants to see them.
yeah,
I don't know what he's driving at, but
like I don't know, and it's
people
very,
getting
it's-
static ball.
It's very easy to just throw it all the dirt and say, "Oh no, it's Matt O'Connor
Oh,
bad,
absolutely not,
Joe
no.
Schmidt great,"
Absolutely
and
not.
you know it's easy to say that. But when you do watch and you watch the 2 matches over the weekend and you see the stark difference,
Mm-hmm.
every single time Ireland got the ball, you knew, God, there's something. It mightn't be sexy
Something will go
running
wrong.
rugby
I think that
like the French used to do in the 90s,
I-
but you knew that there was something on, that they were going to do something positive. When you watched the Leinster match, there was nothing positive about what we were doing.
I think
before.
Leinster have a game plan. I think it's. I've said it before. What I think it to be. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I think it's based on individual players beating their opposite number in a one-on-one or in a mano-a-mano situation.
well, that's all that's left. When
And I think
everything else is-
it's stripped down to that. And I think he's done that on purpose, but I'm not sure why. But I think that for that to work, certain other things have to be in place, and they aren't. We aren't creating one-on-one situations because our pack aren't tying in enough of the opposition pack. We're not clearing enough quick ruck ball. We're not mauling. I'm sick and tired of discussing the Irish maul at this stage. It's
Leinster Maul.
the Leinster maul.
But compare and contrast those two. Leinster and Ireland's maul.
One is
Worlds
shite,
apart.
one
Worlds
isn't.
apart. But Dave, you mentioned, what's our tactic? Like, it seems to me that we get the ball and we kick it for about 2/3 of the pitch. Whenever we have the ball, we kick it.
Kick it very long, yeah.
And we kick it about 30 yards too long every time, because every time the ball comes down, there's no one putting any pressure on the. Whereas you again look at the Irish.
Yeah, but
when the
the-
Irish.
You see,
when
The object isn't to
when
contest
when
the ball. They're
when-
not kicks to contest.
Yeah,
the
we're not
object
kicking to contest.
is to
We're-
bring the
yeah,
players
yeah.
up in the line.
We're kicking for
And
a
and-
territorial thing, and we do have a soft line.
You
But-
define
Yeah.
where
Whereas Ireland have
the
a hard
next
line.
ruck is
But
going
they,
to happen.
they
You def-
don't, with the Irish or the Leinster defence, don't come up fast enough and aggressive enough, and they never put them under pressure. Whereas Ireland, when we do clear the ball, we are putting them under pressure. Even if you look at Sexton's tackles, one he got a turnover and a penalty on, and the second when he dumped Ford in his arse. Not one time in the Leinster match did somebody put in an
Really
aggressive.
put in a hit like that, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's true.
But that's A, because the ball, as we've just said, is going too far ahead. It's obviously designed to go that far ahead, or it wouldn't be happening every time. If you see the Irish players, they all come up in a line,
And the line is very structured. It's just
I think-
it's a difference between a hard line and a soft line. I mean, Leinster used to play a soft line, so they did often did certainly in 11-12 in the home games in the Pro 12. We often complained about that the Leinster line wasn't coming up hard enough. It was coming up. It was structured and it was straight and there was no gaps, but it wasn't coming up fast and hard. Now I prefer a fast and hard line, but there's a school of thought for either direction. The question is that line conceding tries? No, the problem is the other end. We're not scoring enough tries. Although we are third top scorer in the league, but we're not.
Not
We're not,
Leafy.
we're not
Leafy.
winning enough
Yeah,
games.
we're not-
We've
we're not-
won. We're fourth in the league. We've won the same number of games as Connacht, who are sixth.
Mhm.
That's mid-table. as what we've won the same number of games as a mid-table team.
Well, we've completely run out of road with now we really need to.
Yeah, we've no wiggle room.
We've nothing left now. We need to win in the Scarlets, and that'll be a pretty big ask. If we don't win in the Scarlets, we're not getting a home quarter final. And what's disappointing about that is if you look back at the last 10 years, like even in Declan Kidney's season, we were third place in the league. The only other two times since we've been third in the league has been under Checa, when we were knocked into third place on the last day. We'd either been in first or second, and we were knocked into third place in 07 and 05, I think. Every other time we've been second or first. Every other time. The last time we haven't been in the top three was Gary Ellis' season. Okay, so if we're not top three,
seventh, I think.
8th, yeah. If we're not top three this season, that's the worst we've been since Gary Ella was here, which is an awful long time ago, right? So anything less than that to me is a failure in the league. Whatever we do in the Heineken Cup, they can't believe it's not Heineken Cup. Whether we beat Bath, the consensus is we're unlikely to win a semi-final in Toulon. So if we beat Bath or if we don't beat Bath seems to be the two options in the Heineken Cup, and leaving us with, if we come fourth or worse, even unless we're going to win an away semi-final in the Rabo, or in the Pro 12, which has never happened before. No team has ever won an away. A few finals have been won away, but no team has ever won an away semi-final. So we're getting we have to get through this one game against the Scarlets, and then we've got all the players back, and we should have no excuses. But if we get them back, and we've too much to do,
we have. I know we have to. I mean,
if we don't win this, we're looking at winning every other game.
We've Ulster away, right? And we've Glasgow at home.
Yeah.
So if we win those two games, we probably will end up second.
It's touch and go. We could actually, if we lose next weekend, we could actually win every game and still end up fifth. Believe it or not. We could also win every game and end up second. Depends on bonus points, and it depends on. I don't think we'd be first.
Yeah, it depends on another game. Like
Depends
Ospreys
on
play
other-
Munster. Like Ospreys play Munster away. So Ospreys could win that game, and that puts the cat amongst the pigeons.
So you never know, but
there's still only small gaps in between what's fourth and what's.
The thing is, for
right
Leinster, we have to beat. We have to beat Scarlets.
We have to win.
Yes, I agree with you that there's many slip tricks, cups and lip, and other fixtures there will be other results that will change the dynamic of the remainder of the season. But you can't trust those. What you can trust is your own ability to win. So we have to beat Scarlets.
It's a 22 game league. You end up, your final league position is pretty much where you deserve to end up. At the moment, I don't think we really deserve to be fourth because of the way we're playing. It's just that some of the other teams are so rubbish, and some of the freakish results that are happening are aiding us to remain fourth. We have scored a considerable number of bonus points, which exaggerates our lead over Connacht. Even though we've won the same number of games as them, the 7 points difference.
Yeah, well, Connacht have a run in from hell, though.
Yeah.
We're unlikely to finish.
No, I'm just saying that at the moment, like we've both played whatever it is, 15 games, 16 games, and they've won 9 games so have we. But like the team is just, it looks like a rabble.
It does.
And it, from looking at it, obviously we're not involved in the coaching of it, but when you do look at it from the outside, you think, what did they practice all week? Because it doesn't look like they've actually done any rugby. Kirshner was interviewed and he said, it's hard to get back into the team because I'm just coming back in. Like, he's only been out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, does he not participate with them? It's like as though he's learning the relationship.
Yeah, well, something Dave said earlier. Do we? How settled have our combinations been through the season, or 8, 9, 10, or?
But you're like going back over the last few number of seasons. We've always played 50 odd players. We've always We've
had Joe Schmidt, who's a master of blending teams.
Yes,
he can bring out a team with. Again, we said it earlier.
When it boils down
Darcy and X.
See,
next week it's O'Driscoll and X.
This is the thing about. using Joe Schmidt's Leinster as a comparison, who the hell wants to go and see Queen with Adam Lambert singing? Nobody does. Nobody wants to see Adam Lambert's Queen. Everybody wants to see Freddie Mercury's Queen. That's the problem. It's very Joe Schmidt being the coach of Leinster skews everything that happened to Leinster because he's such a good coach.
Well, exactly.
Right? So, is Matt O'Connor as good a coach as Joe Schmidt? No, he's not even close.
Well, of course, there's no point in even discussing
Dave,
that. But
when we had Michael Cheika there, we won the league in 08.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the final of it in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Cheika and O'Connor, you could kind of say are neither of them are Joe Schmidt.
I think there's huge parallels between 2008, 2009, and this year. We were playing like drains coming up to Christmas and just after Christmas in 2008, 2009. There were huge calls for the coach's head. There were calls for various Antipodean halfbacks to be sacked immediately. We lost twice to Munster. Shamefully in quite poorly in both games.
Mm-hmm.
But then we brought it back together. You know, and I think that it's hard to know. You see, it's hard to know if we're going to do that because I think the team we had in 2008, 2009 was a considerably better team than the team we have now. I just don't think we have the players at the moment. The players to play the way that we used to play. Leo Cullen's gone.
Brian O'Driscoll's
gone.
Johnny Sexton, he's in Ziva.
We've gone through all that before. All those guys are gone. The coaches are gone. More importantly, we lost John O'Gibbs.
Yeah.
Right.
Greg Feek.
Greg Feek is gone. Kurt McQuilkin is gone. Richie Murphy is barely there. He's barely. Do you know, like when Leinster were playing over in Ospreys, Richie Murphy was watching the Irish under-20s because that's his job now. You know, it's not easy for Leinster. But having said that, that doesn't excuse performances. Whatever about the Ospreys, going away to the Ospreys, whatever. That doesn't excuse performances like the Dragons game or the first half in the Zebra game. There's no excuse for those from a Leinster team. None whatsoever. It doesn't matter who's playing or who's coaching. There's no excuse for that kind of performance. And the thing is, we've seen elements of that kind of performance a bit too often this year.
Yeah, but you mentioned the Ospreys. Like the Ospreys aren't the Ospreys that won the league a couple of years ago with their their Welsh internationals.
They certainly weren't last week. Anyway,
like they certainly weren't last week. They were shorn of all their players, just like Glasgow were, just like we were. But we were able to still field 8 or 10 internationals.
I don't disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's still the Ospreys are a good team. They know how to beat us. They play well against us. I mean, we said 5 minutes ago, and nobody demurred when it was said Ospreys could just as easily go ahead and beat Munster because Ospreys could go ahead and beat Munster.
Well, the Ospreys will have a few players back from Wales. Scarlets have 3 or 4, like the Priestland back.
Yeah,
they've 2 or 3 guys back from Wales that are going to make them a far better team than what we faced.
I mean, will we have anyone back?
I would say we'll have Marty Moore. I would say we'll have we'll possibly have Ian Madigan. We'll probably have Cian Healy. We'll definitely have Sean Cronin. We will also possibly have Redden because Redden didn't play a minute of so in fact I'd say we'll definitely have Redden. So quite a few we should have back. So we should have we do need them, and we should have a decent team on paper. But don't know what it'll be like on grass. I'm hoping they're going to be a lot better than we faced recently because it's do or die.
See,
this is the game where we have to set it up for the guys coming back. If we don't set them up and give them something to do, it'll be too late by the time they come back. The thing will have passed us by, and we'll just literally need to win.
You have to set up the save, as they say in baseball.
Well, whatever it is, we'll have to set it up for them by winning this game, and if we do, happy days. We've a good shot at with all our lads back. If we've got, if none of them are injured or very few of them are injured after the Six Nations, we'll have a good shot at the league, and we'll have a good shot at Bath, certainly.
Well, rumours abound that one of the guys that used to be instrumental in setting it up for the internationals, Easton Nasiwa, possibly could be making a return. There are strong rumours going around. It was reported in the Sunday Times by Peter O'Reilly that he could be coming back to Leinster next season to slot in as one of the foreign spots during the World Cup.
It's hard to know how. Obviously, everyone's delighted to see Issa back. I mean, he's one of the greatest ever Leinster players. last year we signed a Fijian, an aging Fijian who was raised in Australia.
Yes, this one was raised in New Zealand. We're fine.
Didn't really work for us. Well, no, he spent a lot of time in Australia. Didn't really work for us. And this Issa hasn't played in 2 years. I mean, he'll probably be fit and he'll probably have kept himself in shape. But there's a difference between.
Well, his body was bandaged.
His body was bandaged.
Yeah, it's probably had 2 years to recover.
Well, that's the other side. There's a difference between civilian fit.
Of course.
And rugby fit. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I hope it goes really, really well. Because I think
he'll be great.
I think he went too soon. I think he was slightly older, but I think there was an element of the Dennis Hickeys about it that he could have stuck around in another year. Not that he denied us another year or two, but that he could have, for his own sake, stuck around another year or two. So hopefully it works out well. Wouldn't be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got a lot of credit in the bank with Leinster supporters. Some people are saying that we're being pandered to get some season ticket renewals.
No one has thanked Matt O'Connor for signing them.
Yeah,
you thank him, Dave.
I'm not going to. I'm not sure it's a good signing. I'm genuinely not sure that it's a good signing.
They always say you should never go back. He left on his own terms.
David Howell.
He was an absolute.
And Ollie LaRue.
Ollie LaRue.
No, I agree. I'm not
However,
sure.
briefly.
And we are limited in the amount of foreign players we can sign next year. I mean, it's 4.
Yeah.
He'll be our 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this not an opportunity with the World Cup just about to?
Maybe it is.
To go out into the market and buy a 27-year-old guy that you can kind of build your team around for a couple of seasons, instead of re-signing a 32-year-old who retired because his body wasn't able for professional rugby, who won't have played for 2 years and 3 months if he plays a game in September.
Well, a couple of things. One, I think he's been looked at as much to cover Richie Murphy as he is to cover anybody else.
Well, sign him for that.
Secondly,
if he came in as a coach, I'd be jumping off the ceiling with dancing.
Well, I
and
think he
Richie
is
and
coming in as a kind of a player coach, a guy who's
the problem with the player coach thing is that the player part takes up a registration. That's the problem.
Well,
unless the IRFU give us a dispensation,
I think they might as well. I'm driving.
If they did, then start Lionel Richie.
I think they're gonna. I think he's going to come in as a coach who plays a bit rather than a player who coaches a bit. I mean, when are we going to need him? 6 games during the World Cup. That's made for a guy with that professionalism, a guy with that talent. No matter how much he's lost in the 2 years he's been off, is going to be good enough to play against the fucking Dragons during the World Cup.
The other side of this is that these things happen and they kind of
during the Six Nations.
They get skewed. I remember when John O'Gibbs first came to Leinster. John O'Gibbs had never any intention of playing for Leinster, but the story got out there somehow that he was going to be, like you say, a coach who might play a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that is the same with Issa. Issa's coming as a coach, and there's a certain amount of
the story in the Sunday Times, where this emanates from, said he's coming as a player. Not a coach. It doesn't even mention coaching.
Yeah, the word coaching isn't. That's very true. There's no mention in Peter Riley's story. There's no mention of coaching at all.
I think it was mentioned by Leo Cullen today, though.
No, I don't know.
More coaching than. But anyway.
But then again,
we'll see.
My opinion on Leinster's press conferences over the last couple of months is well known. I mean,
a couple of years, I'd say.
Matt O'Connor could come out tomorrow and say Issa who.
In fairness, Leo Cullen is probably the exception to that rule. He's said a few things in press conferences this year that no one else has said that have turned out to be true. But anyway, by the time this comes out on Thursday, we could know more about this situation, and if it's true, if it's something to sell season tickets, then season tickets are up for renewal next week. So there's going to have to be some kind of an announcement, or else it's a waste of a publicity stunt.
And the thing is, Leinster traditionally haven't announced signings until all their signings are done. And now pretty much all their signings are done.
Quite a few of them are, yeah.
But they generally leave them until May. And under the old calendar. Now it might be a bit earlier this year because everything's a couple of weeks earlier this year. But so if they are doing it, it's going to be a strange way to do it.
But would like a publicity stunt to try and drive season tickets not be better off aiming at, well, we're after signing X current All Black or current Springbok who's going to be a star at the forthcoming.
Maybe they will, Jason. Maybe they will.
Signing a 33-year-old mental skills coach isn't a publicity stunt. I mean, it just isn't. I mean, apart from the rugby, it might be a thing at getting people to repurchase, to re-sign up for season tickets. You're not going to sell any new season tickets on the back of East Seaway. You'd sell new season tickets on the back of a Robbie Fruin or some star of Super Rugby. But I don't think we're going to be in that market. I just don't think that's. I don't think that's where we're at the moment.
Well, anyway, let's just hope that we can put in a better performance against Scarlets at the weekend.
Oh dear God, yes.
All right, my boys. Thanks a million, and thanks very much for watching. Cheers.